Hi, welcome to another podcast on lead-acid batteries. In today's Q&A session, we have Ramesh Natarajan, a veteran with over 42 years of hands-on experience, having an insightful conversation with a guest who is asking him a lot of technical questions. Hope you find this podcast useful to your business. Do visit www.rameshnatarajan.in to stay connected.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of my podcast. Today I have Mr. Avnish Arora, a dear friend of mine, with me. He has vast experience in marketing and sales on the all India level in the field of batteries and related equipment. As the founder director of ASAP Engineering and Consultants, he is presently helping companies with strategic marketing of advanced electrochemistry to niche customers. I have already done 2 podcasts with Avnish ji, and our earlier podcasts have received fantastic reviews. We decided to do another podcast today on battery user pain points. Avnish ji, we can now proceed. Are you ready?
Yes, sir. Definitely. Thank you for my introduction. Sir, the intent to have this podcast with you is that let us address and also assuage consumer pain points with respect to the batteries. Whenever a user or a consumer, he tends to buy a battery, he has certain expectations from that.
Yes.
That equipment, battery. So, over a period of its lifetime or over a period of the service life of the battery, there are certain expectations which are not met. There are certain expectations which are met, or some expectations are partially met.
Or unsaid. I mean, he doesn't ask for it, and he doesn't get it also.
He doesn't get it.
Yes.
So I thought that let me have a list of questions with you, and let us do it in a podcast, so that we can address these points, and we can help consumer to understand the product which he is going to buy and the product which he puts into service in a better manner.
Yeah, definitely.
So, sir, let me start with my first question, that any lead acid battery consumer who's looking to buy a battery which is used for standby application or say small office, small home office application, or even SLI, that is starting lighting in ignition, that is automotive, or a UPS battery, so as to say, where the buyer is actually generally dependent on the seller's recommendation to take a decision.
Yes.
So consumers are generally swayed by big brand presence, advertisements, and they get confused easily.
Absolutely.
So the major thing which consumer keeps in mind while buying these batteries is the warranty.
Yes.
Warranty of the batteries and the service life of the battery he is going to get after that. So how do you think that he can interpret both the things, that is warranty he is getting as well as the service life he is going to get out of it, and how can he get the best out of this product?
See, in this case, when you're talking of SOHO, that is small office, home office, or you're talking of a UPS application where he bases his buying decision on the seller, this is mainly a non-industrial buyer or a person who is mostly using it for home or a clinic or some small application. Now here what happens is when the dealer goes or he approaches a shop and goes to buy a battery, he gets mainly confused with the guarantee and warranty.
Yes.
Because first, let me slightly explain what is the difference between a guarantee and a warranty. In the case of a guarantee, it is a free of cost replacement of the product or parts of the product. And this guarantee can be an on-site guarantee, or it can be a guarantee at the service center or at the dealer premises. Next is warranty. Warranty can involve cost to the customer and is usually repair of the product. And the battery as a product is generally sold with a mix of guarantee and warranty. So what he says is it's a 2-year guarantee and then pro-rata warranty. Now, basically he says 5 years you don't have to bother about it. 2 years guarantee and 3 years warranty is there. And he conveys it as a peace of mind for the total term. And he loosely conveys it like a guarantee. So there is something implied but not committed. But what the customer has to understand is, in case of a guarantee, the customer can ask for a refund of the paid amount in case of immediate problems within the guarantee period. Of course, after using it, if it is a 2-year guarantee and a 3-year warranty, he will not be entertained if he asks almost towards the end of the second year. But within say 10-15 days of installation or something, if the battery is absolutely bunkum or not working, then he can definitely say, no, I want it replaced, or the entire battery, or you take it back. That is possible in case of guarantee. Warranty is not a guarantee. It is only a promise. It assures the customer that the product is free from defects. And usually in the warranty period, what happens is the warranty is pro-rata. So in the 2-year guarantee period, okay, the dealer also ensures that the battery doesn't fail. Either he gives it a regular service, or he makes the customer get into an EMC, says that the guarantee is valid only if you take a EMC from me, or if I maintain it or somebody maintains it. And if somebody is maintaining, I need proof of maintenance and all that. So 2 years, it's okay. Somehow the batteries also, especially in the Soho application, they are tubular batteries, they last. So there's no problem. It's only the 3rd, 4th, 5th year that the battery can fail, especially if it is abused, not maintained, or neglected.
Right.
In which case what happens is the warranty is pro-rata. So usually he says if the battery fails in the 3rd year, I will give you something like 40% rebate on the next battery that you buy. But the battery which has been already sold becomes the property of the seller, because he gets a scrap rebate for it. And the 4th year is such that he'll say, I'll give you 25%. And the 5th year, he'll say, I'll give you 10% if it fails. To be very honest with you, actually the battery, if it fails in the 5th year, and if he has to give a 10% rebate, it benefits the seller rather than the buyer. Because he gives a 10% rebate, he's getting a customer tied to him. Yes. Without a marketing cost is one advantage. Exactly. The customer has to buy from him because the battery has failed in the 5th year. He wants the 10% rebate, so he goes to him. Definitely this battery which is given to him, the new battery, no doubt it is given with a 10% discount. But the old battery which comes back, this seller benefits much more than the 10% because he gets much more value for the scrap battery. So where in such instances in the 5th year, what a buyer should do is he should see the pros and cons. He should say, I don't want any rebate on the 5th year. I don't want the 10% discount. Come on, tell me how much you'll pay for the scrap. In such cases, actually, he should not go to the same shop. He should take the specification of the battery, go to another shop, find out the lowest price, and then the cost of the scrap battery, which he is having, and then come to a total cost of ownership. Right. Like this is the price at which I am getting a replacement battery. Then he should come back to this guy and say, give me a 10%, give me a scrap rebate or a rebate in lieu of scrap, right, something, and give me the battery. That would be the correct approach which benefits the customer, especially when he goes towards the end of the warranty period. So now guarantee and warranty are two things which a customer should understand properly before he approaches the dealer. As far as automotive batteries are concerned, usually there is no problem with automotive batteries because these batteries are maintained by the service station And nowadays these automotive batteries which come, they are fitted to vehicles which are very efficient in terms of charging as well as discharging of the battery. Like earlier days we had the dynamo which need to be set and all that, and the wiring also of the vehicles were not so good. But nowadays with the wiring being in a harness and completely insulated and going through the entire vehicle in a proper manner, SLI batteries, that is the starting lighting ignition batteries, that is not much of a problem. Now you have asked a question about service life. Now there are, when we talk of life of a battery, I always want people to understand that there is something known as a design life. The design life is something which the designer of the battery at the manufacturer's end, he designs the battery in a manner that it will give a certain period of life under ideal conditions, of course, and with probably some sort of a little non-maintenance or a little abuse. So he takes that factor into account and the design life is decided. In the case of automotive batteries, the design life is generally about 4 to 5 years in the case of a good battery, and the guaranteed life is 1+2 or 1+3 in the market. At times people have, especially the branded batteries are coming with a 2+3 also, 2 years of guarantee and 3 years of warranted life, pro-rata. And the service life usually matches that. There isn't a problem when it comes to automotive, because the customer doesn't have to do anything much, and it is usually taken care at the service center when the vehicle goes for servicing, as long as the vehicle is regularly going for servicing. In case of stationary batteries, now I am talking about stationary batteries in SOHO applications and not in the large industrial segment where 2-volt stationary cells are used. But in the inverter or UPS segment, where monoblocks are generally used, whether it may be tubular or SMF, the design life is 5 to 8 years. In the case of sealed maintenance, it is about 5 years we say, but the service life is lower than a tubular. And the guaranteed life is 3+2 or 2+3 in the market. Some people give a guarantee of 3 years and a warranty of 2, and most of the people give a guarantee of 2 and a warranty of 3. Of course, there are cases where people give a guarantee of 1 and a warranty of 4 or 3. But the service life is usually 3 to 5 years. So somehow here also the batteries last up to 5 years. But the 5th year, like I mentioned, there may be problems with respect to, the backup or something, and usually the battery is up for replacement. In the case of deep cycle battery, the design life is 1 to 2 or 3 to 5 years. 1 to 2 is in the case of the design life of the e-rickshaw batteries or golf cart batteries, where they are called as deep cycle application batteries. The design life is 1 to 2 years. In the case of other batteries like traction, it can be 3 to 5 years, generally closer to 5 years. But the guaranteed life for e-rickshaw or certain applications like that is only about half a year. The manufacturer gives only half a year. In the case of golf cart, the manufacturer generally gives 1 year or at the most 18 months, that is 1.5 years. And the guaranteed life for traction is 2 to 3 years. If very well maintained, it reaches 5 years also. And at certain times, if it is sparsely used and not used much, it exceeds 5 years also, if maintained well and less used. And that is the service life. So,
sir, thank you. This is very, very informative actually, and you have so clearly and very in a very informative manner you have put across the various warranty and service lives of various kinds of batteries and monoblocks. Sir, I have one question which comes in the back of our mind is that why there is so much of disparity between the design life and the service life in various kinds of lead acid batteries. Like, for example, you yourself said that service life and design life of, say, monoblocks, tubular or via relay, it is about 5 years, 5 to 8 years. Whereas warranties given for these batteries are again 2 pro-rata, 2 plus 3.
Yes.
Whereas now, if we talk of large industrial batteries like 2-volt batteries, there the design life they claim is that
10 to 12 years.
10 to 12 years,
Easily.
even 20 years.
Yes.
They say that
there are batteries which I have seen which work after 15 years also.
Yes. So why this kind of disparity is there, and what should a consumer do to achieve the maximum service life out of a lead acid battery?
See, again, this comes to design. When you talk of an industry where 2-volt cells are used, one is the 2-volt cells have adequate electrolyte because there is no restriction on the size and it need not be compact and all that. Another thing is, when it is fitted in an industry, it is a very big system where a lot of money is involved. And just like maintaining a generator or a compressor or material handling equipment, these stationary batteries which are fitted there are also maintained with the same enthusiasm and the same seriousness by the maintenance department personnel who are trained for this. Whereas when you have SOHO applications, like if I fit a battery at home and I'm not aware of how to maintain the battery, I will not maintain it. Now, if I have to call somebody, usually the call is sent only when the battery fails or it is not giving a backup or there is a problem or there is a tripping of lights. In which case, when the person comes, he sees that absolutely there's no water or there is a loose contact or some rat or something has bitten the cable or something has happened. So what happens is the design life may be about 5 years, but the batteries don't last in service. In the industry, the person takes care because it's his job. He's paid to do it and he's qualified, trained to do that. So he maintains the battery. Another thing is, if an industry has put a 240 volt or 320 volt system, there is a purpose behind it. It's a continuous process industry or something is depending on that industry. Some production which has to be continuous is depending on that. And when some such thing happens, what happens is they also take care that the battery is discharged and then there is a generator backup to take care. So the batteries are also not fully discharged.
Right.
So what happens is though you have designed it for 10 years, definitely the battery will last for 8 to 10 years. Despite the guarantee being of 3 years or 5 years or whatever it is, the battery will go closer to the design life. But because it is discharged in a shallow manner and not used so frequently and maintained well and kept clean and everything, the battery will go beyond the design life also. Because the design life is something which, considering extreme conditions, the battery has been designed for that purpose. Now, it is not going into the extreme conditions, so it exceeds the design life. That is why it happens like that.
So you mean to say, sir, that batteries are generally used in such applications in partial state of charging, which we call PSOC?
No, it is that partial state of charge is in solar application, where the battery is not fully charged. Here the battery is discharged partially, not fully discharged. Of course, in industries, there is another type of battery which is used, which is what I meant the traction batteries for material handling equipment. There the batteries are cycled daily. There the batteries don't last that 10 and 12 years despite the maintenance department being there. Because such batteries which are discharged daily and recharged daily, they need maintenance more frequently. They need to be maintained more with more care and concern and with more knowledge, and that many a times is not done. So there, though the battery is designed for 5 years, it lasts only about 2.5-3 years. And there the battery is probably abused also because it is in the hands of a person who may not be well trained to maintain the battery or use the battery. So there the batteries go into over discharge. The batteries may have a high temperature operation. The batteries may be overcharged. there you have a lot of problems, unlike a stationary battery. In stationary batteries, the chargers are also in a, they are completely connected, continuously connected to the battery, and the chargers have good controls, and the batteries are always maintained in a float condition. And the batteries are always equalized with respect to specific gravity and voltage, and monitored regularly, periodically, and records are maintained. So even in industry, stationary batteries often exceed the design life, and batteries of the cycling application, they don't even reach the design life on most of the occasions.
Got it, sir. Sir, another commonly stated or established protocol, say even the basic practices, although IEEE defines it otherwise or in a different manner. But consumer as a layman who's generally always in a fit and forget mode, what are the important practices, or what are the, you can say, major punch points he or she should adopt to squeeze maximum service life out of a lead acid battery with minimum possible O&M intervention?
See, of late, what has happened is you have many things like you have these for traction batteries, you have vent plugs with auto filling system, so that can be incorporated. You can also have, in case you are using it on a vehicle, nowadays all these instruments which show that whether the battery is 50% discharge, 70% discharge, 80% discharge. So as long as he adheres to proper topping up of water as required, equalizing charge of the battery as and when required, using a correct charger, maintaining the battery correctly with respect to the cables and seeing the tightness of the cables and keeping the terminals clean and all these. So majority of the things are also done by these accessories which are available, like topping up can be done automatically, because of which there is no overfilling or underfilling.
Right.
And chargers, he can have good chargers which cut off automatically. So minimum possible operation and maintenance can only be done with respect to these. Otherwise, the normal maintenance or whatever needs to be done has to be done with respect to lead acid battery. It's in that case, it's like a lithium ion battery, because you don't have a battery management system as yet. But there is a manufacturer who has now developed a battery management system for lead acid batteries.
Okay.
Once that comes in, we'll be able to achieve this goal of minimum possible operation and maintenance also, because that will give all indications of when the battery has to be taken for charging, when the charger has to cut off automatically, whether the temperature is going up,
right,
and whether automatically it will control the charger. All these things will be possible once a battery management system comes up for lead acid batteries also.
I got your points. Sir, sometimes consumers and users, when they have to buy the batteries at their end, due to many reasons, they are not aware of the storage environment in which they want to keep the batteries. Suppose they want to use it, say, after 2-3 months or after some interval of buying these. So what should they know about self-discharge? What should they know about storage environment and condition generally for final use or even the reuse? Suppose there's already a battery.
They have used the battery and kept it. See, when it comes to storage, there are two types. One is when you have received a battery in dry condition at a store or anywhere where you just have to store it because it's not ready for sale.
Right.
And so you're not filling the acid. Definitely here you have to keep it in a non-dusty atmosphere, in a safe place that there is no physical damage to the battery. But when it comes to charged batteries or acid filled batteries or batteries which you have received from the factory which is already charged, and if you're not going to sell it for about a month or two, or even more, and you're keeping it, then there is something known as a self-discharge which takes place. And to avoid this self-discharge or to compensate for those self-discharge losses, you have to give a freshening charge. So this is usually about anywhere between 3 to 5% of the battery capacity.
Okay.
And this is generally given at a constant rate, and this is given for about at least 10 to 12 hours, and after a period of 3 to 4 weeks. Okay. Of course, this also depends on the type of alloy that has been used by the manufacturer, and if there isn't much antimony in the alloy, then this can be done once in 3 months too. Okay. But then how to know whether the battery is self-discharging is, when you receive the battery, you check the voltage. If it is not a sealed maintenance free battery, you can also check the gravity. So once you've seen that and you know that this is the voltage and gravity of this brand, of this type of battery which is coming, then you know what is the type of, approximately you know, okay, he is using a certain alloy where fully charged battery is having this voltage and this gravity.
State of charge.
Yeah, so you know the state of charge of that battery. And then next time, after about 3 or 4 weeks, when you see, and if the voltage has come down or gravity has dropped down, you know, okay, it needs a freshening charge after 3 to 4 weeks. If it has not come down, check it again after about 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and then you can determine. Another method is to ask the manufacturer himself for guidance, saying that, okay, I've got this battery about 6 weeks back. What is the recommended duration at which I have to give a freshening charge? And this can be done. As far as, again, the operation and maintenance is concerned, I think we have done one episode of the podcast where we have given in detail and talked about it, about correct topic of frequency, periodic cleaning of terminals, overfilling, underfilling, overcharging, and all these things. So in the post of this podcast, I'll give a link so people can listen to that, because that is a podcast by itself of about 25 minutes or so.
That is for flooded batteries.
Yeah, that is for flooded batteries.
Right.
And here also, when I'm talking about specific gravity, it's flooded battery.
Yeah, definitely.
As far as maintenance free is concerned, usually it can be stored that way for a longer time. Right. But even there, it needs to be monitored, and there we are able to monitor mainly the voltage,
right,
at the dealer end.
Sure, sir. I think consumers will be very grateful to have that podcast link in the post, and they'll go through that. Sir, another thing is that many a time consumers leave these lead acid batteries in idle conditions for long periods. Or sometimes they go on long vacations, sometimes the industrial users are doing some projects which fails to take off, or due to any other unforeseen events. So what is your advice to the battery users in such cases with respect to the checks to be made before starting again after this interruption or disruption, say, in between?
See, when people go on vacation, or you have an unusual occurrence like a lockdown or something where you're not starting the battery, in case of SLI applications, it happens only then, not otherwise. And in case of SOHO applications, what happens is the battery is connected to the inverter, and as long as you're keeping the inverter on and you're locking the house, the battery is maintained in fully charged condition, because the inverter keeps it on a float charge, and there is a trickle current going to the battery to compensate for the losses. So you have no problems. The problem comes only with the SLI batteries, and that too if you have left it usually for about 3 to 4 weeks, and if the battery is old. If the battery is new, generally even 5 to 6 weeks, my experience has been, there has been no problem with the battery if it is new. And if you're coming back and using a battery which is discharged, like suppose the automotive battery is discharged and you're using it, okay, you may jumpstart it for taking the battery to the service workshop or something. But it is advisable to charge the battery and equalize the specific gravity and voltages prior to use.
Right.
So in the case of flooded battery, you have to check the electrolyte levels. You have to equalize the level using water unless acid has been spilt out. Don't add acid ever into these batteries. Just put water, because the water component is the only thing which would have evaporated. And you have to check the specific gravity and equalize the specific gravity. And you have to check the voltages of individual cells if possible. In the case of monoblock, you have to check the entire monoblock voltage only and record it. And the battery can be put to use after it is fully charged, after it has reached the top of charge voltage. And in case you are having a battery which is uncharged, then you keep all the materials together if you're going to install it or something later, and keep it away from dust and from hot environment.
Right.
That is the only thing we have to take care as far as batteries are concerned if you're going to leave it for a long period of time.
Okay. Sir, another thing is that whenever the user buys these batteries, the dealers or they are quoting the OEMs, generally the battery manufacturers, they say that, okay, you have to take the AMC along with the battery. First of all, my first question is that how pertinent do you think an AMC for a new battery which is covered for say 2 years of guarantee is required during the guarantee period? And second is that, okay, after the guarantee period, when the warranty period starts, how important is the AMC for the consumer? Or can he deploy certain do it yourself practices, or can he do certain things on his own, or can he rely on local electricians which are available at his disposal there to take care of the battery O&M needs?
Here this is a bit difficult. It all depends on what will be the AMC charges. Definitely doing an AMC even during the guarantee period is beneficial because it will increase the life of the battery.
Okay.
See, suppose you don't do a AMC in the first 2 years thinking that it is guarantee, and if your battery is getting dried or having a lot of sulfation because of corrosion or acid splashing out or something like that, then your battery life is definitely going to get affected. So doing a AMC is a good thing, but then it all depends on how much it's going to cost, because the life will not be substantially improved if the cost is going to be very high. If they are charging something like 20-30% of the cost of the battery, then it is better to do it oneself. But then doing it oneself means you should know that you are only supposed to top up water up to a certain level, or not overfill. You should not keep the battery dry, and you should ensure that the terminals are kept clean and not use grease. You have to use petroleum jelly.
Okay.
For the terminals.
Right.
And you have to ensure that the connections are tight and the cables are not pulling the terminals.
The normal petroleum jelly which is available in the market.
Yes, the white one.
The white
one, petroleum jelly which is available.
Right.
So also called as Vaseline.
Right.
On various occasions.
Yes.
Now, as far as a local electrician is concerned who can come and do the job, what happens is the local electrician can only check the voltage, because he will only have a multimeter, and majority of the times they don't even have a hydrometer, nor do they have a brush to clean the terminals or anything. They'll just use a screwdriver or plier and just hit the terminals, which is a wrong way of...
they don't have the petroleum
jelly they won't have.
Yes.
And they may not use DM or distilled water, because if there is a water shortage, they'll say, no, nothing happens, just give me little tap water, give me fridge water, or give me RO water, let me put that. That is how they do the maintenance. So it is better than a local electrician who seems to be confident and seems to be qualified. It is better that we do it ourselves by putting proper DM water or distilled water, which is available in the petrol pumps, the fuel stations, or with a car mechanic or a workshop. Get this, keep it with you and put the water. and keep the terminals clean. And even if you do not check the voltage regularly, maybe once in 6 months on a call basis, you can call this guy during the 2-year period and tell him to check everything and certify that it's okay. Maybe he'll come and check with the hydrometer and do it and go, if you do not want to give the AMC. But definitely giving the AMC is a good thing, but it depends on cost, like I told you. You have to wait with the cost that he is asking.
Right. So generally consumer is wary of touching the batteries, in circuit batteries, or they are whenever the battery starts giving the trouble, they are not able to decide whether he can touch the in circuit battery or not. So what is your advice to the consumer with respect to that say in an emergency in the midnight, suppose the inverter battery or inverter trips, how safely he can attempt to see the battery himself?
See, majority of the cases when the inverter trips, it is due to an overload.
Right.
Because you have a house where you have maybe about 2 kilowatt of load, 2000 watts or something, and you have an inverter of about 800 watts or 800 VA or whatever it is, and you have all these loads running, and then suddenly the load is connected to the entire house, the inverter is connected to the entire house, and the inverter trips. So put off some loads and then go and restart the inverter will start. So mostly the tripping problem is due to that and not due to anything to do with the battery, if it is tripping. Now, after having done that also, if it is tripping, that means the voltage is low.
Right.
And in which case, probably the battery is dry or partially dry and it has not been maintained, maybe the reason for the tripping. But generally, if the tripping problem is solved after you reduce the load, what you need to do is, if you are going to maintain the battery, you have to take care that you don't touch the positive and negative terminals.
Okay.
And together with a metallic spanner or something like that. So even if you are using a spanner to tighten the positive terminal nut bolts or the negative terminal nut bolts, it has to be insulated at the other end. You have to put an insulation tape on the other end so that it doesn't touch even accidentally. The only problem with battery which comes is due to accidental shorting,
Right.
which can create a spark and can injure you, or it can lead to a battery explosion. So as long as there is no shorting of the positive and negative terminals which are exposed, the battery as such is very safe. And like I mentioned, use petroleum jelly. You can apply it with a gloves or even with bare hands, it doesn't really matter. And you can clean the terminals. Don't short it. Use only distilled water or demineralized water.
But this myth that demineralized water can be prepared at home is a myth.
No, you
It is
can't,
not a
because
reality.
actually this water is not a demineralized water. What we drink is
Right.
not demineralized water.
Some
In fact,
people
it is-
say that okay, you can put that refrigerated water or ice
no.
water.
No, you can't do that.
You
No,
can't.
you can't.
So that is a myth.
Yeah,
So
because
consumers-
that contains chlorine,
chlorine.
which is detrimental to a battery,
Right.
and it has lot of minerals.
Right.
In fact, there are these water purifiers. They say that we are adding minerals,
Absolutely.
and even the Bisleri and all, they say that so and so minerals added, which we do not want for a battery. You want demineralized water. So this demineralized water, you will get it from either a battery manufacturer, a battery shop, or from these car servicing agents or car service workshops, or from the petrol pumps. That's the fuel stations.
So what is the difference between DI and DM water, sir?
See, demineralized distilled water is used more in the battery manufacturing process,
Okay.
distilled water, and in the laboratory, and demineralized water is what is used for topping up and in the battery charging sections.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, sir, symptomatically, if a consumer has to check periodically the health of his Soho battery, say inverter battery, in circuit, battery. What do you suggest he can do at his end?
See, the maximum I think he can do is after a power shutdown,
Right.
when the power resumes, he can check whether the battery voltage is going up.
Okay.
That is, the inverter is recharging the battery. In normal condition, when the battery is fully charged and it is on a trickle mode, he may not see much variation in the voltage. So it's very difficult for him to know whether my inverter is in working condition or my battery is in working condition or whether everything is fine. That's very difficult for him. So it's difficult for a person to check unless he's got a tongue tester, in which case he can also measure the current which is going for charging the battery, recharging the battery.
Okay.
So it's not very easy for him to check, except for when the power resumes after discharge, and that too it must be substantial. If it's a 5-minute discharge and then he goes to check, he may not find much of a voltage difference or the battery voltage rising.
Right. So periodically what he can do is he can shut the main MCB of his off and see that how much load his inverter and battery takes.
The voltage will come down,
voltage,
but he won't be able to know what is the current because he won't have a
current he will not
be able to measure, and that's very difficult for him. That is why when these people come, who are not the people who are only cleaning and saying I'm doing an AMC, but if it's a proper trained person coming, he checks all that. He checks the current during discharge, he puts off, he sees what is the current drawn by the load, he measures whether the voltage is coming down properly or it's dropping down suddenly, and he also checks by putting on the MCB again that okay, the charging has started, whether the current is going now to the battery, that he is able to measure.
Sure, sir. Thank you, sir. With this, I would like to draw curtains to the first series of questions.
Oh, you have more questions.
Yeah. I have some more in the continuation of which
then we'll have to
is
do
a little
more
divergent
podcasts.
topic,
Huh.
and I think we'd like to have another podcast with you.
Sure, we
On
can do
that.
one more podcast
Yes.
for this next
Yes.
episode.
So it
maybe
was
we can
very
have it.
informative, and I hope all the consumers will like it.
Thank you very much, Avnish.
Most
Really a
welcome.
pleasure doing a podcast with you. Thank you very much.
Please do visit www.rameshnatrajan.in. Keep yourself updated about our new releases by hitting the subscribe button.